Welcome to the latest edition of this Warship TV special, with this edition dedicated to capturing the very latest naval action, highlights and movements as filmed by the Warship TV film crews nationwide. So please sit back and relax as we see some of the highlights coming up in this edition. We begin with a view of one of the Royal Navy's Type 23 frigates, HMS Lancaster, as she leaves Devonport and heads out to sea on the 1st of March. Built by Yarrow shipbuilders on the Clyde, she was launched on the 24th of May 1990, being commissioned into the fleet on the 1st of May 1992, and is today normally based at Portsmouth Naval Base. All of the Type 23 frigates are named after dukes, and HMS Lancaster is known affectionately as the Queen's frigate, as the Duchy of Lancaster is one of the sovereign's titles, with HMS Lancaster being sponsored by Her Majesty the Queen. In 2019, as part of an extensive LifeX refit at Devonport, HMS Lancaster was fitted with a new Artisan 3D radar, as well as vastly improved air defence capabilities provided by Sea Scepter missiles. The new Sea Scepter missiles, which replaced her previous Seawolf, now give a range in excess of 25 kilometres. In addition, she is also fitted with anti-ship harpoon launchers as well as anti-submarine Stingray torpedoes. As she heads out to sea and passes through Plymouth Sound, later that month, Lancaster would head a UK-led expeditionary security force to the Baltic, together with HMS Westminster, RAF Tide Race, and ships of the Estonian Navy. A week later, on the 8th of March, one of the Royal Fleet Auxiliary's fast fleet tankers, RFA Wave Knight, returned to Devonport, and viewed from Mount Wise, we see the 32,000-ton vessel as she negotiates the Narrows and heads up the River Tamar into Devonport Naval Base. The second ship to bear the name Wave Knight, she is a fast fleet tanker and has the ability to supply fuel and other liquid cargoes to ships using 3 replenishment rigs. The Wave-class tankers have a capacity of nearly 17,000 tons for fuel and over 900 tons for dry stores. As she turns and enters Devonport itself, where she will dock at number 1 jetty, we also see Wave Knight's flight deck and maintenance hangar, which is capable of supporting 2 Merlin helicopters. When she is deployed on Atlantic patrols, she is also normally equipped with a Lynx or a United States Coast Guard helicopter. As both the Wave-class tankers are now in excess of 20 years old, it looks as though their future is relatively secure, with no replacement in sight, combined with an ever-expanding Royal Navy, meaning that resources continue to be stretched. However, nothing is certain, and in June 2018 it was reported by the Brazilian press that either or both of the Wave-class tankers had been offered for sale by the Ministry of Defence to Brazil. But as of 2021, this has failed to materialise. Following Wave Knight into Devonport was HMS Enterprise, one of the Royal Navy's 2 Echo-class survey vessels, which were built at Appledore Shipyard in North Devon. HMS Enterprise is the 10th vessel to bear the name Enterprise for the Royal Navy, the first being a 24-gun 6-rate frigate that was captured from the French in May 1705. HMS Enterprise's primary role is as a survey vessel, examining and mapping the seafloor to ensure that other naval vessels are ensured of safe navigation. But she also acts as a mothership for mine warfare support, for mine countermeasures vessels, and maritime security as well. HMS Enterprise has a displacement of 3,700 tons and is powered by 3 diesel-electric generators which give her a maximum speed of 15 knots or around 17 miles an hour. She has a range of 9,300 miles and, being one of the Navy's smaller vessels with a crew of 72, has a limited endurance of 35 days before needing replenishing. Later that day, we see the frigate Van Amstel of the Royal Netherlands Navy as she enters Plymouth Sound as part of undertaking Flag Officer Sea Training at Devonport. Van Amstel is a Carroll Dorman class frigate that were a series of 8 multi-purpose frigates that were originally built for the Royal Netherlands Navy during the mid-1980s and early 1990s. Today, just 2 vessels remain in service with the Dutch, with the remaining 6 continuing to serve with the Belgium, Chile and Portuguese navies. Although over 30 years old, these formidable multi-purpose frigates are still at the forefront of naval warfare and are used in the anti-submarine, anti-aircraft or surface combat roles. Their primary surface armament consists of twin quad Harpoon anti-ship launchers with a range of up to 75 miles, as well as the Malera 76mm gun, which has both anti-ship and anti-air capabilities. For anti-submarine warfare, each vessel is equipped with 2 twin torpedo launchers firing Mark 46 torpedoes. Van Amstel is also equipped with a Westland Lynx helicopter, which, as well as being armed with twin Mark 46 torpedoes, also carries dipping sonar and forward infrared systems. For anti-submarine warfare, each vessel is equipped with 2 twin torpedo launchers firing Mark 46 torpedoes. Van Amstel is also equipped with a Westland Lynx helicopter, which, as well as being armed with twin Mark 46 torpedoes, also carries dipping sonar and forward infrared systems. On the 12th of March, we see HMS Echo as she leaves Devonport for exercise in the Baltic, where she would join HMS Lancaster and HMS Westminster, together with Tide-class fleet tanker RAF Tide Race. Like her sister HMS Enterprise, Echo was built by Appledore Shipbuilders in Bideford, North Devon, and was launched on the 4th of March 2002, being commissioned into the fleet on the 7th of March 2003. Echo and her sister Enterprise were the first of 2 multi-role hydrographic survey ships commissioned, and are designed to conduct survey operations in support of amphibious operations or submarines. Like her sister, Echo has a secondary role as a mine countermeasure tasking authority platform, capable of deploying a dedicated mine countermeasures command team. Based today at Devonport, Echo has a total ships company of 72 on a 3-watch rotation system, which allows for 2/3 of her ship's company to stay on board at any one time. This gives a work cycle of 75 days, followed by 30 days off, which allows her crew to take leave whilst Echo can stay away from home for potentially years at a time. Having departed Portsmouth on the 13th of March, HMS Kent made a brief visit to Devonport 6 days later, and we see her as she is turned in the River Tamar prior to heading out to sea. For the last few weeks, Kent has been engaged in post-maintenance and sea trials, which will then involve her conducting workups prior to being deployed on the carrier group with HMS Queen Elizabeth in May. As part of the life extension programme for the class, Kent entered Devonport for a LifeX refit in 2016, which included such modernisations as the replacing of her Seawolf missile system with Sea Scepter. This refit took over 2 years to complete, and on the 5th of October 2018, she was recommissioned back into the fleet at Portsmouth. Next, we again see the frigate Van Amstel of the Royal Netherlands Navy as she passes Eastern Kings, having undertaken further flag officer sea training exercises off the southwest coast. While some may consider her to be a relic of the Cold War era, the Royal Netherlands Navy have significantly upgraded the remaining Carol Dorman class over the last decade by rebuilding both the hangar and helicopter deck so as to accommodate the NH-90 helicopters, as well as fitting the new Thales Sea Watcher radar and Gatekeeper surveillance systems. As Van Amstel approaches the Narrows and turns to enter Devonport, one thing is certain, that with all these extensive modernisations and upgrades, the sight of Carol Dorman class frigates visiting Devonport will be seen for some years to come. Under the watchful gaze of Prince William of Orange, HMS Richmond leaves Devonport on exercise. But in recent weeks, Richmond has been engaged in tracking Russia's submarines through the southwestern approaches of the United Kingdom. HMS Richmond was launched in April 1993 and has the distinction of being the final warship that was constructed by Swan Hunter, sailing from her builders on the River Tyne in November 1994, and was consequently commissioned into the fleet in June 1995. In 1997, whilst deployed with the Ocean Wave 97 task group, she made one of the most interesting visits of a British naval vessel in recent years, when she visited the port of Vladivostok, also the site of an important Russian naval base, and in doing so became the first Royal Naval vessel to visit a port in Soviet Russia in 100 years. On the 23rd of March, one of the newest warships in the fleet, HMS Tamar, visited Devonport. A Batch 2 River-class offshore patrol vessel, Tamar is seen as she heads up the River Tamar towards the Narrows at Devil's Point. Whilst designed primarily as patrol vessels, they are also capable of roles previously entrusted to larger frigates and corvettes. And with a displacement of 2,000 tons, HMS Tamar is considerably larger than her Batch 1 predecessors. Equipped with a bridge that is similar to a Type 45 destroyer, she is one of the most modern warships in the Royal Navy and has a top speed in excess of 20 knots. As a patrol vessel, HMS Tamar is more than capable of intercepting drug traffickers and smugglers, and in these roles, the ship's company has trained extensively to work with Royal Marine Commandos in board and search operations. As she prepares to deploy for the Indo-Pacific region, Tamar is also able to perform a multitude of roles, from the protection of territorial waters to a humanitarian role in times of disaster. Prior to returning to Portsmouth, we see HMS Kent moored in the River Tamar, having been ammunitioned from the Royal Navy Armaments Depot at nearby Ernesettle in Plymouth. HMS Kent was built by Yarrow shipbuilders on the Clyde and was launched on the 27th of May 1998. She was commissioned into the fleet on the 8th of June 2000 and therefore holds the distinction of being the first Royal Navy warship to enter service in the 21st century. A Type 23 frigate, HMS Kent is 436 feet long and has a displacement of 4,800 tons. She is powered by 4 Paxman Valenta diesel generators with twin Rolls-Royce gas turbines, which produce over 31,000 horsepower, and this gives her a top speed in excess of 28 knots, equivalent to 32 miles an hour. And heading down the River Tamar, she passes HMS Albion and Devonport Naval Base before heading out to sea. Type 23 frigates have a range of around 7,500 miles, and HMS Kent's normal complement is for a crew of 185, although there is enough accommodation for a further 20. And heading out into Plymouth Sound, over the last 3 weeks, HMS Kent has been engaged in engineering and equipment trials, as well as essential sea safety training and a Thursday war exercise. Viewed from Cawsand Fort, Kent passes the breakwater as she returns to her home port of Portsmouth. Having returned to sea and completed this rather lengthy and complicated period of maintenance, upon arrival in Portsmouth, her ship's company will now get to enjoy some Easter leave prior to going on her next deployment. HMS Trenchant returned to Devonport for the final time on the 25th of March, and later this year she will formally decommission and join the long list of submarines awaiting disposal in No. 3 Basin in the dockyard at Devonport. Trenchant was laid down at Barrow Shipyard in October 1985 and was the fifth boat of 7 Trafalgar-class submarines that were constructed. She is some 280 feet long and displaces some 5,300 tons when fully submerged. The class is still widely considered to be the most capable nuclear boat of the Cold War era, and is still proving to be highly effective as hunter-killer submarines over 30 years after their construction. As a hunter-killer submarine, there is naturally limited public information about her naval career, but part of her strategic role involved tracking the diminishing Russian submarine fleet in the North Atlantic, and at least one of her class was permanently stationed east of Suez, always ready to respond to threats in that region. As she enters Devonport for the final time, displaying the traditional paying off pennant, her 32-year naval career draws to a conclusion. With her decommissioning, there now remains just 2 T-class boats in service, HMS Talent and HMS Triumph, which have recently had an extended lease of life thanks to the late build of the final Astute class subs and the 2021 Defence Review. Returning from exercise off the southwest coast, we see HMS Richmond as she enters Plymouth Sound on the 26th of March as she prepares to enter Devonport. HMS Richmond entered Devonport for her LifeX refit in the summer of 2017, and in November of that year it was announced she was to move from Portsmouth to Devonport in an effort to have all of the anti-submarine Type 23s permanently based in Plymouth. As part of her LifeX refit, Richmond became the first Type 23 to be fitted with the new MTU M53B diesel generators, which are due to be fitted to the remainder of the class, as well as the new Type 26 frigates now in build. Richmond emerged from her LifeX refit after almost 3 years, and in February 2020 she put to sea for post-refit trials. These trials included the new PGMU propulsion system using the MTU generators and the new Sea Scepter air defence system, which had replaced the dated Seawolf. All these modifications now mean that Richmond will be a capable warship for the next 10 years, until her scheduled decommissioning in 2030.